loss in proportion? Raise your hand if you used it. Degrees over 360 equals radians over 2 pi. So you could have converted this into degrees. The second thing you could have done is, I will show you guys, I don't know if it's a shortcut. If you think about it in a circle, a whole circle in rotation is how many degrees? And radians? So half of a circle is what? 180 or pi. What does that mean? Because they're coterminal, pi equals 180. So you can do something like this. 3 times 180 over 4. And basically what I'm doing, I'm just converting it to degrees to give myself an understanding of the problem. 4 goes into 180 how many times? Just for that, on your next quiz, you guys may not use your calculators. That's on video. Shh. 45. So 3 times 45 gives me 135. 3 pi over 4 is 135 degrees. Raise your hand if you got that. Awesome. Let me show you another, not shortcut, but observation. Watch this. If I look at the fractions, the radians, if it's a denominator of 4, it's going to be a 4 T5, 45, 90 special right triangle. If it's a denominator of 3, it's going to be a 3, 30, 60, 90 special right triangle. Watch as I do this problem. So 135 degrees is past 90. Last week we learned that essentially theta is equal to 135. I need to find theta prime, which was last week's lesson, which is the reference angle. In this case, this would be a 45 degree angle. So theta prime is inside. It's a 45 degree angle. And that means that this is a 45, 90. This has to be a 45. Well, how do you label the triangle? Well, I know it's a 45, 45, 90. 45, 45, 90. So always across the 45s is a 1, and across the 90 is a radical 2. So across the 45 is a 1. This one is going to be positive or negative? Negative, because you're going where? Left. And then your y value is, across the 45 is always what class? 1. In this case it's the positive 1. And then always across the 90 you will have a radical 2. So cotangent is which letters? X over y, so that would give me a negative 1 over 1, which gives me an answer of negative 1. Cotangent of 3 pi over 4 equals negative 1. Raise your hand if you got that. Question?
Why isn't the y negative? Is it going down?
Here?
Yeah.
Remember in quadrant 2, you go left and then up. So your x values are negative and your y values are positive. I also wrote all students take calculus. S stands for sine and cosecant. That's to show you that they are positive. Everything else is negative. Okay? Alright, let's try this other one. Secant of pi, 5 pi over 3. Remember, you could have used loss in proportion. You can also graph this. Do you guys want to see me do it in radians?
Yes.
Fractions, because you like fractions? Best friends? Ask out radians, in fractions to prom. Count in radians, race out.
0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi.
Okay, I just want to stop here. These are called the, what type of angles? Everyone say quadrantal angles. They're the quadrantal angles because they land on the line. This also gives you a hint. Anytime I tell you to find each of these functions, if it's a denominator of 2, then you're going to have a quadrantal angle, which means you're going to have to use just the 0 and 1. Does that make sense? Because it's a unit circle, 1 unit away. Okay? So this is 5 pi over 3. The lowest common multiple here for 3 and 2, if you multiply those, the answer is 6. So I'm going to convert all of these to 3 pi over 6. This tells me that this one's going to be 0 pi over 6. This one's going to be 6 pi over 6. This one's going to be 9 pi over 6. And the full rotation will be 12 pi over 6. Cost, is this in one full rotation? Yes, it is. Put your finger where 5 pi over 3 would be. 5 pi over 3 would also be in quadrant 2. The reason why it's in quadrant 2, because you have 3 pi over 6, and this is 6 pi over 6, so that's like 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's put in, just kidding.
Wasn't that 5?
That's 5 pi over 3, so we're going to have to multiply by what? So that would be 10 pi over 6. Excuse me. So that would be 9, 10. So that would be quadrant 4. Raise your hand if you got quadrant 4. Good job, you. Okay, what does this mean? If this is, the red line is 10 pi over 6, and this is 9 pi over 6, how much is this one? Let's see if I can write that. This is pi over 6. But remember, I want the reference angle to be inside my bow tie. So this would be a distance of how much? 2 pi over 6, which reduces to what? Pi over 3. And someone said the degrees. I said that pi is equal to 180, so 180 divided by 3 is 60. Let's draw our triangle. There's my 90 up here. Let's label our triangle. If this is a 60, this must be a 30. So here's my x value. Class, always across the 30 is a 1. Remember, if you didn't write that down, 30, 60, 90s, you have 1x, 2x, x radical 3. My y value across the 60 is going to be what? Negative radical 3. And my r value is going to be across the 90, which is my 2. We are finding secant. So secant is which two letters? R over x. And then so I have 2 over 1. And 2 over 1 is just 2. So the answer is secant of 5 pi over 3. The answer is 2. I just want to clarify this question. Students were saying, well, Mr. Ng, didn't you say that this is called the unit circle? So shouldn't the radius be 1? The technical answer is if you divide all of these by 2, you get this fraction. Right 1.5, down negative 3/2. So this order pair is 1/2, comma, negative radical 3 over 2. And you'll see where this order pair comes up when we do the unit circle.